Hey, I'm Richie from Tumbleweed. This weekend I'm playing Sonic Rendezvous down in welcome to Thornbury for Record Store Day. Um, yes, I'll throw it over to you now.
Beautiful, mate. So you're a born natural. That was perfect. So, as you said, my friend, Tumbleweed is set to headline the inaugural Sonic Rendezvous Record Store Day. Fuck, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
It
Sonic
is.
Rendezvous Record Store Day at Welcome to Thornbury on April 20th, alongside Grinding Eyes, Hot Machine, plus a lot of other bands and DJs, mate. So, sounds like
Yeah,
a pretty good day of music and festivities.
that'll be great. My daughter's band's playing as well, Private Wives, they're on the bill.
Oh, nice.
Um, so that'll be really cool. They played with us down in Melbourne a couple of years ago. So it'll be good to see they've gotten heaps better. So that'll be amazing to see them doing their thing. Grinding Eyes, I've always been a big fan of. We actually did a split 7-inch single with them a couple of years back. And we did a cover of an old 60s song called Pathway Through the Forest, which is a wonderful song by a band called The Factory. Really rare song. But we did that at Jamie's place, our bass player's house, just like a home recording of it, and it ended up on a split 7-inch, and they did a song as well, and it was for the thing called Welcome to the Acid Test. So we did a bunch of shows with Grinding Eyes a couple of years ago as well, and they are amazing. They're amazing live. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the other bands as well. I know of them. I've checked them out, but yeah, it'll be the first time to see Hot Machine. Um, yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome for $20. I mean, $20 is like
I buy 2 beers for that these days.
yeah, that's a 1993 price.
Hmm.
So that's pretty cool. Um, and the whole vibe of Record Store Day is a good one. I'm a big fan of records. I like vinyl. I'm not a big fan of Spotify and digital stuff, although like everybody, I've been sort of like sucked into the convenience of it. And it's pretty cool for sort of like finding out stuff and hearing things that you wouldn't ordinarily hear. But yeah, as far as like listening pleasure, I like a record.
You feel dirty. You feel dirty listening to Spotify for some reason, don't you?
Yeah, I did, and so then I started paying for it, and then I thought, and then I paid for it for a while, and now I'm doing without paying for it because I just saw the bills coming out. I thought I can't justify giving these people money, although I'm giving really like actually
Only a
artists,
small percentage of
artists are getting diddly squat.
yeah.
So yeah, you're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, but you want the exposure, but you're giving it away. Like in no other world is that a thing.
Seems counterproductive, doesn't it?
It's just bizarre that it is a thing, but it is a thing. And, anyway, that's why I champion things like Record Store Day. And I think it's really cool. And it's nice to see that there's a lot of people doing it as well that are really sort of getting back into buying records, and it's a good community. So it'll be a good vibe. And there's records for sale. I think up until 8 o'clock, or you can bring the family, you can bring kids. 8 or 9 o'clock, you can bring the kids. You have to check the Welcome to Thornbury site out for that. But yeah, it says on their site something about that. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of open to everyone. Yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully we have good weather.
Good right. So off topic a little bit, bro. Like, and how cool is it sharing a stage with your daughter and another band, man? Like, I've got an 8 and a 9-year-old, and I took the 9-year-old to see Taylor Swift for her first ever concert. And the buzz I got out of that, it's still ringing in me now. But to actually share a stage with your daughter and the band, man, it's giving me goosebumps just asking you.
Yeah, it's really it's amazing because I mean, with Zoe, I never really pushed music on her at all, or told her to play an instrument. We had instruments around, there was always music around, but it's something that she sort of just went on her own and did. And even if I sort of like give her advice or stuff like that, she's really reluctant to take it. She'll just like, nah, she likes to do her own thing. So, which is really cool. And I've learned over the last few years just to sort of like, okay, just let her do her thing, because it's better than what I was thinking anyway. Like I'm old bloke, right? So it's really nice to sort of see, to allow, or well, not allow, I don't really have to allow, but just to accept that that they got their own thing that they're doing, and I like that. So yeah, and playing on the stage with her, and yeah, amazing. I'd like to actually one day do something together, so which we will down the track. But at the moment she's keen exploring her femme punk rock roots. Yeah.
Good on her. That's a fucking proud dad moment right there, brother.
Yeah, that's it.
Now you sort of touched on this briefly before, mate, but back to record store day, like live music's going to be with us forever, but after a period of relative obscurity, vinyl's actually making a welcome comeback. Like, can you pinpoint the reasons why you think it's come back around again?
Yeah, I can. I think, well, for me, I think that it's something tangible. It's like it's something you can touch. I know that when I started getting into music in Wollongong, a lot of the music that we liked was sort of like either independent Australian stuff, or punk rock, and would buy imports, and a lot of it would have to sort of like get on the train to Sydney, and we'd go scouring Waterfront, Phantom, or all the record shops up Pitt Street, and then you'd come back on the train, and you've done this trek, you've invested this time and energy, and then you get home, you got your records, and you read every single liner note on it, and the whole thing is an experience, just taking it out of the package and stuff like that. Not only that, before social media and stuff, you'd see people on the train, and they'd have the Waterfront bag, or they'd have a Red Eyed bag, or a Phantom Records bag, and you go, hey, they're like me. They became your network, right? That's who you sort of like realize, these are the guys every Saturday that are going up to get their import records. So there's that aspect of that tangible thing where, the artwork looks better for a start. It's a collectible thing. It's yours. The thing is with digital music is it's whilst you're sort of like dipping in and you're listening to it orally, there's no, and you can look at a picture, it's not yours. You're just sort of like, you're looking at it. There's some sort of thing about having, it's like, yeah, ownership. It's like if you buy a painting, it's on your wall, it has more resonance to you when you see it on the internet, or you see it in a art gallery or whatever. You go, I've got that one on my wall. It's like something, because it's yours. You've got this connection to it, right? So there's the connection to it. There's also just the physical experience of putting it on, getting the needle, putting it down, the crackle, that whole thing. There's a romance to it. There's a dance, and you sit back, and it's a ritual, It's like how fishermen or whatever, they like the hooks, and they like the flies and all the bits. The bits can be like half the joy in it, like putting the right fly on if you're a fly fisherman, or you're choosing the right things. Humans like that touch, and I think without it, it's I suppose that's my disappointment with the cyber world, is it's just very it has less meaning. It washes over you. You go, yeah, I'll look at that for 5 seconds. Your attention span switches to something else. There's no investment. There's no personal investment. So yeah, when you've got that personal investment in time and energy, it means something. You hold on to it.
I think you're missing one thing there too, one important thing, mate. Like, at our age, our eyes aren't that good, and CDs are too fucking hard to read.
Well, that's true. Yeah, there's all that gobbledygook, but that's the truth.
This is going to be Tumbleweed's first Melbourne show in 2 years, mate. So was that by design, or did it just happen that way?
Yeah, well, no. Last one I was at the Croxton Band Room with Rocket Science. It was great. I think what we decided to do was, well, to be honest, I started sort of like delving into sort of writing some other songs, and I've put together a solo record. And so for the last year and a bit, I've been putting that together, and that's due to come out like on May 24th. So the band was really cool. I mean, they said, okay, Richie, you're itching to go and do something, go and do it, blah, blah, blah. We're fine. Everyone, like, I mean, the thing is, now we can balance what we do. Unlike a lot of bands, a lot of our contemporaries from the 90s that sort of like have to play a lot to pay their mortgage and pay their bills. We don't really do that. Like, I mean, we've all got jobs. We still all live in the gong. And so when we do Tumbleweed, it's because we want to do it. It's like, it's something that we can choose what we want to do. And that sort of gives us a certain amount of freedom. But with that, it was also good to spend the last year just working on my first solo record.
Okay.
That's why. That's really why. Yeah.
You can be as self-indulgent as you like, brother. It's your world.
Hey, look, I'm not getting any younger. It's like it's my debut solo record. I'm 53 years old. Like, I've been talking about it for a long, long time. And I just sort of figured, you know, time waits for no one, and I better do it now, or it's now or never. So like I did, and it was more about sort of like the process of just sort of like I was compelled to do it for creative reasons, to do something different. I was writing lots of songs that really didn't fit the Tumbleweed mold, and you know, it wasn't really fair on me to sort of like force on them, hey, here's these batch of, we're going in a new direction. That's not what it's about. Tumbleweed's been around for way too long, and we've got, you know, too many old school fans to really do that to. And also it is what it is. Like, so I thought, okay, I've got all these songs, they're hanging around, I've got to give them a home. So I just went and sort of made my own little thing up the side there.
So I understand this is the only show Tumbleweed have got booked this year. So if they want to see you this year, you're going to have to get your flights to Melbourne pretty quick.
Yeah, at this stage it is. But at the moment we're sort of like, okay, you know, the books are open, and if somebody wants to yell out at us, that could change, right? So like,
and I want to tell people that we're saying it's the only one, so they have to come to the record show.
It's the only one.
Thank you very much. Love the way you're working with me, not against me, brother.
No, I'll just be honest. Like, you know, if somebody says, hey, you can't be the only one, here's some money, do a show, we'll do it.
So just want to touch a bit back in history, mate, because Tumbleweed are like, you guys are one of the most respected bands by other bands in the Australian music industry, mate. So I know we haven't got that long, but I just want to pick your brain for a few things, man. Like, you were one of the original members when Tumbleweed first started back in 1990. That was the year I finished high school. Like, what was the musical climate like that gave birth to the band, and where did you fit in back then?
Well, what happened was, I was the drummer in Proton Energy Pills, and Lenny wanted to leave the band. There was problems, but Lenny said, hey, Rich, come with me, and Jay, you come with me too. So we formed a three-piece called Tumbleweed. I was still drumming, and we didn't know who was going to sing yet. The kind of climate that was around, there wasn't as many bands around. If you were playing if you were playing punk rock, and we were signed to Waterfront Records, everybody sort of knew who we were, and we sort of had pretty good supports. But at that time, this was prior to the Nirvana releasing Nevermind or anything like so. And prior to Rat Cat, sort of like having, you know, their big hit. So that whole world was still sort of a healthy, vibrant scene, as I remember it, like in pubs, and it was cool. And we sort of came into that scene. UMI were in that scene too, because when we first started, we were playing with them when they were starting as well. But what was it like? It was before the industry got their grips on it, but it didn't last long. You know, as soon as there were some big hits and some records being sold, namely Nirvana, everybody was getting signed up, and it changed really quickly. And this sort of like communal punk rock scene that sort of, I saw it all around the world. Like when we toured with Mudhoney, and we did England, and I'd see the same pockets that we'd see at the Lansdowne, or the same pockets that we'd see at like the Tote, or, you know, wherever, Treasury in Brisbane, same punk rock crowds everywhere, same sort of drawing from the same pool of taste and influence. But yeah, then after Kaboom, it all just sort of like, it sort of dispelled and lost its potency in a way. but got a lot bigger. It was like Obi-Wan sort of going, you know, you strike me down, I'll get bigger than you'll ever imagined. That's what it was like.
Great impersonation.
Yeah, so it's sort of like that. But for me, being like a 18, 19-year-old kid, or well, even when I started going and seeing bands, the bands I'd go and see when I was like 15, 16, I'd sneak in, would be like Celibate Rifles, Psychotic Turnbuckles, all these bands that would come through, the New Christs, the Exploding White Mice. There was just a really healthy Australian independent scene. Olympic Sideburns, they're another one that comes to mind. The Johnnies, the Stems, you know, all that sort of stuff. The Church, and all that stuff was going on, and we were sort of really influenced by the Rifles really initially, and then sort of started to find our own feet after that. But yeah, with Tumbleweed, we sort of had a more direct idea about what we wanted to do. We felt that there was a gap, or it wasn't like looking at it like that. The kind of music we liked was heavy stuff but melodic, and a lot of people weren't doing heavy stuff, slow Sabbath inspired stuff. Like when we realized to slow down from being a punk rock band, we realized had a lot more power. So we started slowing down and making heavier stuff, and the Big Muffs started becoming a little bit more crunchy, and but we wanted to sort of put melody on it, and there wasn't many people doing that then.
And the music scene obviously has changed drastically since you started, but Tumbleweed are one of the few bands that have refused to change and cater to trends in fashion, mate. Like, was that a conscious decision made by the band just to follow your own path and direction, or was it just too hard to follow the trends?
Yeah, don't care about the trends. We've always, I think part of growing up in Wollongong and being a weirdo was always good, because it sort of like always set us aside. We've never really fit in, and we've created our own world. And but when we began, we really sort of had an idea of doing something our own. We wanted to make our own thing and do our own stuff, and make our own sound. And if people wanted to come along for the ride, cool. It just so happened that like at that time in the early 90s, it kind of like aligned a little bit with the grunge movement and everything else that was going on. So we managed to get some good shows, and for a little while we were fashionable. But we didn't do it for fashion. We had that sort of thing before fashion. And the fashion sort of happened because it was kind of like, well, it was just a part of the world. It was like a lot of people coming of age at that time, and they were inspired by, say, you know, Hendrix and the 60s stuff, or Blue Cheer, Black Sabbath, but also punk rock and hardcore and stuff like that. So for the first time, that was coming through, you know, that was the first time that melting pot happened. And so like we did a line with other bands like Mudhoney or whatever, or sometimes, you know, Monster Magnet. They're both quite different, but we sort of were in there somewhere. I think, yeah, fashion is, you know, I like fashion. Like I like clothes. I like fashionable clothes, but my fashion is sort of based. I only like really sort of late 60s fashion, you know, like psychedelic fashion. That's my era, like say from 65 to about 72. And if anything like that era, cool.
That's 7 years band, good. Otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah, but I wouldn't, yeah, I would never. I mean, sometimes with other sort of trends in production are kind of interesting, because like there's always people pushing grounds with production, and I'm inspired by that. Like you know, someone like Beck, for instance, that sort of brings in different sounds or whatever. I like that. And I think on some Tumbleweed albums, we've sort of experimented with some stuff, like having Paul McKercher there, or Phil McKellar. Both have been interested in sort of like twiddling knobs. So that kind of thing is, and that can date a little bit. Like if you hear Ramones records and they've got keyboard, like synthesizers on them, you know, Something to Believe in, that song and stuff like that. And you go, oh, that's not a Ramones sound. And it's very hard not to be sort of caught up with the latest production trends. But I suppose because we haven't recorded so much, most of our stuff is in that time, and we try to replicate sounds of stuff that we liked that tend to be 60s oriented music.
Well, now we're going to have to call this a night. I feel like I could sit and talk to you for hours.
Oh, mate, I could talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. I tell you, I'm just
I've left the kids alone in the lounge room, and I'm dreading what I'm going to go back in there to. So I'm going to have to go back there and do the
all right, mate.
But in the meantime, Tumbleweed are playing at Sonic Rendezvous Record Store Day this Saturday, April the 20th in Melbourne. Only show for the whole year at this stage.
Yeah.
But down there, $20. Gets you music. It gets you, what else we got here? There's food. There's vinyl vendors. There's cold beer. $20.
Yeah, I think actually Coopers have got a they've just sponsored it as of today. So if you buy a record from the record fair, you get a free beer.
Fucking, I'm booking my flights as soon as I get there.